Life can often feel like a storm. Problems swirl around us, chaos takes over, and we feel overwhelmed by the weight of it all. In these moments, it's easy to focus on the problems at hand, to be consumed by worry and fear. But God is calling you to shift your gaze. He's saying, "Look at me, not the storm." The truth is, your problems may be big, but God is bigger. When you focus on Him, the storms in your life begin to lose their power. This message isn't about ignoring the challenges you face, but about changing your perspective. It's about realizing that your problems are not in control. God is. So, if you're feeling weighed down today, remember that the same God who created the universe is the one who holds you in His hands. He's not distant or uncaring. He's with you, right in the middle of the storm. And as you shift your focus from the problem to the problem solver, you'll find peace, strength, and the assurance that God is in control. Let's dive into this journey together as we learn to focus on God and not our problems. It's natural to focus on what's going wrong in our lives. Our minds are wired to find solutions, to fix what's broken, and to figure things out. But when we constantly dwell on our problems, we begin to magnify them. They grow bigger in our minds than they actually are. God is asking you to do the opposite. He's asking you to magnify Him. The more you focus on Him, the smaller your problems will seem. It's not that they disappear, but their grip on your heart. Think about the story of Peter walking on water. As long as his eyes were fixed on Jesus, he was doing the impossible. He was walking on water, defying the natural laws around him. But the moment he took his eyes off Jesus and focused on the wind and the waves, he began to sink. The same is true for us. When our focus shifts from God to our circumstances, we begin to feel overwhelmed, discouraged, and hopeless. But when we keep our eyes on God, we rise above the waves. The storms may still rage, but our hearts remain anchored in peace. Focusing on God doesn't mean you pretend your problems don't exist. It means acknowledging that, yes, the storm is real, but so is the God who calms the storm. He's not oblivious to what you're going through. In fact, He's already working on a solution. While you're stressing about the problem, God is already preparing the breakthrough. When you focus on Him, you're trusting in His timing, His plan, and His ability to make a way when there seems to be no way. The more you focus on God, the more you realize that He's already gone ahead of you. We often feel like we have to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. The bills need to be paid, relationships need to be fixed, and there are 1,000 things demanding our attention. But God never intended for us to carry these burdens alone. In Matthew 11:28, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." When you focus on your problems, you're carrying a weight you were never meant to bear. But when you focus on God, you find rest for your soul. You find peace in the middle of the chaos because you're trusting Him to carry the load. There's something powerful about shifting your focus to God. When you do, it changes the atmosphere of your heart. Fear gives way to faith, worry is replaced with worship, and anxiety is traded for peace. Focusing on God doesn't change the circumstances overnight, but it changes you in a process. It strengthens your faith, deepens your trust, and aligns your heart with His will. When you focus on God, you begin to see your problems through His eyes, and suddenly they don't seem so insurmountable. You start to realize that God has everything under control, even when you don't. Sometimes, the hardest part of focusing on God is letting go of control. We want to fix things, to know how everything is going to turn out, but God is asking you to surrender. He's asking you to trust Him even when you don't see the full picture. Letting go of control isn't easy, but it's necessary if you want to experience the fullness of God's peace. When you focus on Him, you're saying, "God, I trust you. I don't have all the answers, but I know that you do." And in that moment of surrender, you find freedom from the weight of your problems. Focusing on God is a daily choice. It's not something you do once and then forget about. Every day, you have to choose where to place your focus. Will you fixate on your problems, or will you turn your attention to the one who holds the solution? It's easy to let the problems of life consume you, but when you make the intentional choice to focus on God, you're choosing peace over anxiety, faith over fear, and trust over worry. Each day, remind yourself that God is bigger than whatever you're facing, and let that truth guide your thoughts. One of the most effective ways to shift your focus from your problems to God is through prayer. Prayer is not just about asking God to fix things. It's about aligning your heart with His. When you come to God in prayer, you're bringing your worries, fears, and burdens to Him. But as you spend time in His presence, something shifts. You begin to focus less on the problem and more on His goodness, His faithfulness, and His power. Prayer refocuses your heart and mind on God, reminding you that He is in control and that He cares about every detail of your life. Worship is another powerful tool to shift your focus. When you lift up your voice in praise, even in the middle of a storm, it's a declaration of faith. It's saying, God, I trust you even though I don't have all the answers. Worship takes your eyes off the problem and places them on the greatness of God. It's a reminder that no matter how big your problems seem, God is bigger. When you worship, you invite the presence of God into your situation, and in His presence, fear and worry have no place. God never promised us a life without problems, but He did promise to be with us through them. Isaiah 43:2 says, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. This is a promise you can hold on to when the problems of life feel overwhelming. God is with you, and He will never let you drown. The waters may rise, but they will not overcome you because God is by your side. When you focus on God, you start to see the bigger picture. Problems have a way of narrowing our vision, making it hard to see anything beyond the immediate situation. But God sees what you can't. He sees how this moment fits into the larger story He's writing for your life. Your current problem may be painful, but it's not the end of the story. God is using it to shape you, to build your faith, and to prepare you for what's ahead. When you trust Him, you begin to understand that the trials you face are part of the process and that God is working all things together for your good. One of the most beautiful aspects of focusing on God is that it brings clarity. When you're overwhelmed by problems, your mind becomes clouded with worry, fear, and confusion. But when you fix your eyes on God, the fog begins to lift. You start to see things more clearly, and the chaos in your mind settles into peace. It's not that you suddenly have all the answers, but you gain a deeper understanding that God is in control. His peace transcends understanding, and it guards your heart and mind, giving you clarity in the midst of confusion. Focusing on God doesn't mean you'll never face challenges. In fact, the Bible tells us that we will face trials and tribulations in this life. But the difference is when your focus is on God, you're not facing those challenges alone. God is walking with you every step of the way. He's giving you the strength you need to keep moving forward even when the road is tough. The problems you face may be real, but so is the power of God working within you. When you focus on Him, you tap into a strength that's greater than your own. It's important to remember that God is not surprised by your problems. He knew every challenge you would face long before you encountered them. And because He knew, He's already made provision for you. God has a plan for your life, and nothing, no problem, no setback, no obstacle can derail that plan. When you focus on God, you're reminding yourself that He's already gone before you. He's already prepared the way, and He's working behind the scenes to bring about the best possible outcome. Your problems are temporary, but God's plan is eternal. One of the most difficult things about focusing on God is doing it in the face of uncertainty. When you don't know what the future holds, it's easy to let fear take over. But God is asking you to trust Him, even when the path ahead is unclear. He's asking you to take a step of faith, believing that He will guide you, even when you can't see the next step. Focusing on God in times of uncertainty requires faith, but it's in these moments that your faith is strengthened. As you trust God with the unknown, you'll find that He is faithful to lead you every step of the way. There's a peace that comes from focusing on God that can't be found anywhere else. It's a peace that goes beyond your circumstances, beyond the problems you're facing. It's the kind of peace that remains even when everything around you is falling apart. This peace comes from knowing that God is with you, that He's in control, and that He's working everything out for your good. When you focus on God, you're inviting that peace into your heart and mind. It's a peace that guards you against the fear and worry that so often accompany life's problems. Focusing on God is not just about looking at Him in times of trouble, but about keeping your eyes on Him in every season of life. When things are going well, it's easy to forget about God, to focus on the blessings and forget the one who gave them to you. But God desires that you keep your focus on Him, not just in the storms, but in the sunshine too. When you make God the center of your life, your perspective changes. You're no longer swayed by the ups and downs of life because your foundation is secure in Him. It's important to surround yourself with reminders to focus on God. Whether it's through scripture, worship music, or prayer, keeping your mind focused on God requires intentional effort. The world is constantly pulling your attention in different directions, and if you're not careful, it's easy to lose focus. But when you make a habit of focusing on God, you'll find that it becomes easier over time. You'll begin to develop a mindset that automatically turns to God in the midst of problems, and you'll experience the peace that comes from knowing He's in control. There's a freedom that comes from focusing on God. When you're focused on your problems, it's easy to feel trapped, weighed down by the pressures of life. But when you shift your focus to God, you're reminded that you're not bound by your circumstances. You have a God who is greater than any problem you'll ever face, and He has the power to set you free. Focusing on God lifts the weight off your shoulders and gives you the freedom to live in the joy and peace that He offers. God wants you to experience His goodness, even in the midst of your problems. When you focus on Him, you open yourself up to receive His grace, His mercy, and His provision. You begin to see His hand at work in your life, even in the smallest details. Focusing on God doesn't mean that your problems will disappear, but it does mean that you'll have the strength, the peace, and the faith to face them. As you continue to focus on God, you'll find that He's always been there, guiding you, providing for you, and working things out for your good. Focusing on God allows you to break free from the constant cycle of anxiety and worry. Problems have a way of consuming your mind, leaving you feeling restless and unsettled. But when your attention is on God, you break the chains that bind you to your worries. You learn to place those burdens in His hands, trusting that He will carry them for you. As you focus on Him, the weight of your anxieties begins to lift. You find rest for your soul in the knowledge that God is in control and nothing is too hard for Him. The more you focus on God, the more you realize that He is bigger than your problems. What seemed impossible or overwhelming before now seems small in comparison to His greatness. God is not limited by your circumstances. He can move mountains, part seas, and make a way where there seems to be no way. When you focus on God, you're reminded of His unlimited power. Your problems, no matter how big they may feel, shrink in the light of His glory and might. You find comfort in knowing that the God who created the universe is the same God who is working in your life. Focusing on God shifts your perspective from a problem-centered mindset to a purpose-centered one. You begin to see that your problems have a purpose in God's plan for your life. Rather than being obstacles, they become opportunities for growth, for deepening your faith, and for drawing closer to God. When you focus on God, you start to see your struggles as part of His refining process. He's using these challenges to mold you, shape your character, and prepare you for the next step in your journey. You realize that nothing is wasted in God's hands, not even your problems. Focusing on God is also an act of worship. It's declaring, God, I trust you more than I trust my own understanding. I trust you more than my circumstances. When you choose to focus on God instead of your problems, you're placing your faith in His ability to bring about good in every situation. It's a posture of surrender, acknowledging that He is greater and that His ways are higher than yours. This act of faith pleases God, and in return, He rewards you with peace, joy, and the assurance that He is working on your behalf. One of the greatest benefits of focusing on God is the transformation that takes place within you. As you fix your eyes on Him, you become more like Him. Your thoughts, your actions, and your responses to life's challenges begin to mirror His heart. You develop a deeper sense of compassion, patience, and love. Your faith grows stronger, and your trust in God becomes unshakable. Problems may still arise, but they no longer have the power to steal your joy or shake your faith. You become anchored in God's promises, and that gives you the strength to face anything that comes your way. Finally, when you focus on God, you find hope. No matter how dark your situation may seem, focusing on God brings a light into the darkness. He reminds you that there's always hope because He is the God of hope. He can redeem any situation, restore what's been broken, and bring beauty from the ashes. When your eyes are fixed on Him, you're filled with hope for the future, knowing that with God, all things are possible. Your problems may be present, but so is God's power to turn them around. Focusing on God is the key to unlocking the hope and victory He has in store for you. As we come to the close of this message, remember this powerful truth. When you focus on God and not your problems, you unlock His peace, His strength, and His hope in your life. The problems you face are temporary, but the love and care of God are eternal. He is not distant, nor is He unaware of your struggles. He knows every detail of your situation, and He is already at work behind the scenes, orchestrating things in ways that you cannot yet see. When you shift your attention from the weight of your problems to the glory of God, everything changes. Your perspective, your attitude, and your ability to persevere are transformed by His presence. Keep your eyes on Him, and you will walk in victory, no matter what life throws your way. God is greater than any obstacle you will ever face. When you focus on Him, you will see the mountains move. You will find that He is your strong tower, your ever-present help in times of trouble. So let go of the weight that's been holding you down. Surrender your worries, your fears, and your doubts to God, and allow His peace to fill your heart. He will carry you through the storm, and when you come out on the other side, you will see His faithfulness in ways you never imagined. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it encouraged you to shift your focus from your problems and place it on the one who holds the universe in His hands, God. He is for you, He is with you, and He will see you through every challenge. Remember, God has a plan for your life, and no problem is too big for Him to handle. So keep trusting, keep believing, and keep your eyes on God, not on the problems around you. If this message blessed you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more faith-filled content that will inspire and uplift you. Let's continue to grow in our faith together, keeping God at the center of it all. May God bless you and keep you in perfect peace now and always.